So I paid a guy out of California to cut down my wiring harness. It cost me 325 bucks. I paid 25 to ship it out. He covered the shipping back. So 350 bucks is what you're looking at. He reprogrammed my ECM, the original one that came with that engine. This is the original harness that came with that engine as well. I don't like what I'm seeing right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and tape this all off, and I'm gonna go ahead and Scotch-Brite this entire thing, clean it all up, paint it. I'm probably just gonna paint it gray, a lighter color, not a darker color. I ordered a stock mounting bracket for this application, but where I'm gonna put it, which used to be the old battery tray on the side of the engine, I'm gonna go ahead and cut all three of these tabs off because I have holes through where the battery box used to bolt at. So I'm gonna go ahead and utilize those holes and set it down and bolt it in, and then this will drop right in there. And actually on the original application for the truck, the wiring harness went from the motor over to the side, and then that's where the brain box was at. So pretty much exactly where it's at in this vehicle. So I don't have to modify any of this wiring. Everything's great. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep it the same way. So I pulled the wire harness and draped it over the engine, and not a damn thing matches up. I've got my ECM is on the side fender. That's in a picture. And unfortunately, my OBD and test engine light and all of my hookups are at that location as well as my relays and all my hot ignition, my 12-volt constant, and my fuel pump. They're all in the same location, which is on the passenger or driver's side fender. So it's not gonna work. So I kind of knew that I was gonna be moving stuff around. Man, I did not realize how much. For one thing, when I laid it out, all of this right in here, that needs to go. That needs to go bye-bye. Too much. It was just too much wiring. You know, obviously the Scout is a much smaller engine bay than the original Tahoe this came in. What I'm going to do, what I've already started doing, is taking all of this off, and I'll take all the electrical tape off. I don't like this. I'm not a fan of wrapping my wiring in electrical tape. One, as time goes on, this gets all soft and it gets all sticky, and then if you ever have to get in here, it's just a nightmare. So I like to take all of that off. I don't like to use electrical tape. I like to use zip ties. I like to zip tie all my wiring together and all the way down the line, and then I like to put it in a nice cloth loom. Because you can get into it. You can pull take a zip tie off the end of the cloth loom and pull it back, cut all the zip ties wherever you need to get into it, re-zip tie it, re-loom it, put it back. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the loom back all the way to this location. I don't need to get into any of this currently. And truthfully, all of this with this, again, I also don't like this plastic loom either. I mean, it's very usable. If you're going for beauty and for a clean engine bay, I don't like this. The Scout is definitely not that. It's very utilitarian. So this is gonna stay, and I'm gonna reuse this as well on this harness. I'm gonna re-put it back on when I'm done. Because this is very, it's just a very basic, system. And so I want to just keep that, incorporate that. Now, when I do the 69 Camaro Resto mod, when I build that, not the one you see here, but another one, when I build that, I'm going to do all the beautiful loom. I'm going to have it all neatly tucked so far up that you're not even going to see wiring. I mean, the goal is to hide all the wiring and make it clean as it can possibly be. But I've got to relocate this relay center. I've got to relocate all of my main wiring that goes to inside of the engine bay. I'm utilizing firewall quick connectors. And that way, down the road when I have to pull that motor and trans out of the Scout, one little bolt, this complete wiring harness disconnects from the firewall. I can pull the harness completely off the vehicle. Probably not. Don't even have to pull it off the engine. I can just disconnect it from there and literally pull the whole engine out with the wiring all pooled on top of the motor. Probably won't do that, but. So, it's another day. It's a day later than when the last video. So it took me I would say about 8 hours to do this. And the reason why is because obviously I stopped multiple times because I had to leave and do something else and run the kids somewhere or something. So, as you can see, I've got a big, huge wad of wire that I took out. And like I said, I shortened it by about that much, the whole harness. I didn't do anything with any of the external connections. They're all still loomed up. I didn't unloom them or anything because I didn't need to. At this time, I don't need to. I relocated, like I said, the OBD port and the test engine or check engine light from that end down to this end. And of course, I extended the wire much longer. And then I also relocated the other wires as well as the panel down to this end as well. So this is probably right about here is where it's going to pretty much be cut off and it's going to have the connector on. This is pretty much, but one thing I will say, remember when I said that I thought it was going to be like 30 wires, 20 to 30 wires in this that I was going to be splicing into? It was 87 wires that I had to splice. 87 wires, I counted. 87 wires. What I like to do, and that's why there's no loom anywhere up in this range, is when I'm doing wires, I don't like to do them all. I mean, your first thought is you're gonna do it like right here. You're gonna do it, and the next thing you know, you got this huge wad of this bulbous bulge in the wire harness. So what I like to do is I like to space them out throughout the wire harness, so it keeps the wire harness nice and clean. So you don't have this big bulbous, of all these little, because they are a little bit thicker than what the wire is, obviously, with solder and a heat sleeve and everything. So you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but you can kind of see, sporadically you'll see them kind of spaced out throughout the wire harness, and that's just the way I like to do it, especially if I'm trying to keep it nice and clean. So next I'll go ahead and throw it on the engine and we'll kind of go from there. So here's the basic laydown, how I have it all laid out. Like I said, the ECM is right here, bolted right to the driver's side fender. Kind of goes up here. I've just got it zip tied currently right to here, and then this is the original clip. And then it goes back, and I've got it zip tied on both sides. And then my cover actually locks in and closes down on this, and it doesn't interfere with any of that. So all of my connections are plugged in. I didn't plug in my injector connectors because they're just a pain in the ass to plug in and take off. And so I've got them all fed down inside there. You can see they're all fed in. Done, almost. I would say I'm about 90% done with all the electrical. So I had to modify the original harness that I sent out to be modified and paid $300 and some for. I got it back and then I modified it again. That's why it's all uncovered. There's no loom on it. I like to have all my wiring exposed. So when I go to fire this thing up for the first time, if I have any issues in this harness, like a cross-fed somewhere in the system is I didn't feed it right, it'll burn that wiring out. And this way I can see it, I can get to it right away, address it, as well as if there's anything I need to make changes on, I don't have to unloom everything. I can just go ahead and put it in. That's why you see all these zip ties on there holding everything together currently. Then I went ahead and bought a universal kit for this is a filter kit for a Corvette, believe it or not. So I bought it and modified the original housing, had to shorten it way down to get it to fit inside this opening. And actually with this upper radiator hose, it actually fits down in there perfectly. It's not touching anything. I went ahead and bought a new mass airflow sensor, and then I modified the original mass air wiring, shortened it a lot to really accommodate everything. So this is my flex fuel line for my flex fuel, because this motor was originally a flex fuel motor. I went back and forth about making this a flex fuel motor, keeping it a flex fuel, and I decided in the end not to do it and just run regular gas. Well, when I had the wire harness cut down and I had the PCM reflashed, I told them to leave the line as well as the option opened in the PCM. So when I got the Scout running, I had this check engine light that was constant. And it turns out, because I eliminated the actual module that went hooked to the fuel line, that it was not gonna work. It was gonna constantly have a check engine light because of that. If I would have just had the guy delete it when he programmed the PCM and delete it from the wiring harness, which I did eventually delete it from the wiring harness, but I was smart about it. I traced it all the way back and actually pulled the pin out. So I still had the harness itself. So I went ahead and respliced it back into the PCM, and I bought this little module, this DSP module, which is I can't remember the word they use, a reluctor or a eliminator. I don't think it's eliminator, a repeater. I think repeater is what it's called. And it just loops the signal. Let's just call it what it does. It loops the signal. It's a real simple system. So I went ahead and instead of having the wire go all the way down back to where it was originally at, which was on top of the transmission or off to the side of the transmission on the driver's side floor, I went ahead and shortened it down and put it right here on top of the engine. And the plan was to utilize these holes and just screw it down somewhere on here. Originally I was looking at putting it right here, but the more I looked at it, the more I saw that the height of it, how much, I could still do it technically. That's why I haven't hooked anything up yet. I'm just kind of playing with everything. So initially this is what I was gonna do, is drill this hole out and then use the bolt that came out of that hole for the throttle cable and just run it down. Obviously I can't do this one because it's got this fat washer on it and it won't fit. So, but I do have a bunch of these 10mm bolts, tons of them. So I can go ahead and you just use one, just the small bolt itself, and I can just go ahead and screw it down, and then as I get the wire harness cinched down to exactly where I want it, we should be good. You know, I should be able to. It should work the way it sits right now. It shouldn't be an issue. So that's what that is, in case you're wondering.